The fight we've all waited for is over. So what's next for Floyd and Manny? We are making the rounds here on ESPN.com. I'm Jim Basquil. So Floyd beats Manny by way of unanimous decision. In the process, he stays unbeaten in 48 pro fights. To discuss what the future holds for each fighter, and boy, am I out of place here, let's bring in a pair of Hall of Famers. Showtime's Bernstein and our own Nigel Collins. And Al, let's start with you, as Floyd said post-fight that after his 49th fight that he will retire. But in the days after the fight, he has said he'd fight Pacquiao again with regards to the shoulder injury. So what is next for Mayweather?
Well, I think that, he says he's going to fight in September, obviously. He's giving up those belts, you point out. And I think that Amir Khan's probably out of the picture because of Ramadan, when he doesn't fight. So that may be... he's probably not in the picture. What I think one of the interesting potential opponents, but I don't know if it's marketable enough, would be Keith Thurman.
Absolutely.
That would be the best fight. Of course, the one fight that could make Floyd Mayweather the kind of money he would like to make in a fight would be if he moved up to 154 and faced Gennady Golovkin. Now, that is something that he hasn't shown any inclination to do. But of all the options for Floyd Mayweather, that one's the biggest money option.
Wow, you really wet my whistle on that one. I can't imagine him taking that chance, but that would be an amazing matchup, no doubt about it.
And here's why I say that. I used to always say, gee, why should we expect Floyd Mayweather to move up that high? Golovkin's a true middleweight. Maybe it's inappropriate to even ask it. But then, it's funny. I started thinking about it. I did the Hagler-Duran fight many years ago.
Sure.
Roberto Duran was a junior lightweight when he started as a pro, just like Floyd Mayweather.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up fighting Marvin Hagler and fought him in a fairly close fight. Then he went on to win the middleweight title. Ray Leonard fought as a middleweight. Tommy Hearns fought as a middleweight. They were all welterweights. So really, at the end of the day, and Duran's probably the best example because he was true lightweight. So you know what? If those greats could do it, why not Floyd Mayweather?
I agree. It's just a risk, and I haven't seen him take a lot of risks in a career, that's for sure.
Oh, that is true. That is true.
ESPN boxing contributor and historian Nigel Collins. Manny, we now know, is going to be on the shelf for the next 9 to 12 months recovering from shoulder surgery. So when he does return at the age of 37, what should we expect to see from Pac-Man?
Well, I think we're probably going to make a comeback against a lesser opponent than Floyd Mayweather. Especially coming off a surgery where he's really not sure until he gets in the ring, how well it's healed up. But there's also a possibility that he won't fight again, especially if his political career heats up, because he is going to run for the Senate instead of the House of Representatives this time. And also, I think Manny has a lot of financial things he has to work out, so hopefully he will take care of some of that stuff when he can't box. There was also a little bit of talk in the Philippines prior to the Mayweather fight that he might one day have a farewell fight there in the Philippines. But, even though he lost, fighters think that they can still keep fighting until they take a bad beating. And the one thing you could say about last Saturday, Manny didn't take a bad beating.
No, he didn't. But I'd hate to think that was the lasting memory of Manny Pacquiao, despite the fact that he had an illustrious career. I hate to think that was his last fight. Al, there was so much talk for Floyd with regards to the chatter about Mayweather being the greatest of all time. When he hangs up the gloves, whether it's after fight 49, 50, or beyond, how will Floyd Mayweather Jr. be remembered in the pantheon of all-time boxing greats?
Well, I think he'll be remembered somewhere in the top 25 or top 20. Maybe the top 10, I don't know. That would be a stretch for me. But he's clearly a very good fighter who has beaten the best, for the most part, the best in his generation, with a few exceptions. And clearly he's a terrific fighter. You can't be undefeated, and he just won what's called the fight of his generation. So clearly Floyd Mayweather's great, but, I think he's not the best ever.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair analysis on how he ranks all time. Nigel, it was the 6th loss in the career of Pacquiao. How much does this one hurt his legacy compared to others?
I don't really think it has an effect one way or the other. If he had won, it probably would have had an effect. But Manny's had such a long career. He's won titles in 8 different divisions. He's beaten a lot of top fighters, probably more top fighters in his resume than Floyd Mayweather. And, we have a tendency to forgive fighters as they lose fights later in their career, like Ali's obviously an example. And there's many, many more. Ray Robinson, who many consider the greatest of all time, he lost when he got to a certain age and acquired more losses than he would have if he quit younger. So I think we really do forgive our heroes their losses if they lose honorably and it's later in their career when they don't have a chance to come back and avenge it. So I think Manny's a sure shot for the Hall of Fame 5 years after he, has his last professional fight.
Hey, Al, Showtime premieres its Mayweather vs. Pacquiao epilogue show this Saturday. We saw some heated discussion between Mayweather and Freddie Roach before the fight about hand wraps. What can we expect to see overall?
Well, it's a very good show. It has, that part's fascinating, the little byplay between the two of them. And it does a really good job of kind of taking the aftermath of that and several of the developments and kind of giving people a little bit of a taste of what followed that fight. And, we've had, needless to say, it's been eventful afterwards.
A quick follow-up, though. We're going to see anything with regards to the shoulder issue that Manny was dealing with in the show?
It is quite possible that the crew picked up some things.
The show airs this Saturday on Showtime before the replay of Mayweather and Pacquiao, which will air on Showtime and HBO. That's a look at the futures near and long term for Floyd and Manny. We are making the rounds only in the boxing page of ESPN.com. For Hall of Famers Al Bernstein and Nigel Collins, I'm Jim Basquil.